Hi, I'm Mark Richmond from Chef Knives To Go. I wanted to do another sharpening lesson today. And today we're going to talk about chip repair and two different methods for removing a chip from your knife. This particular knife we're going to work on is a tester that I got last year. It's a real thin knife. It's made by a friend of mine. His name's Shiba. And the steel is R2 and it has a real nice crisp thin edge. But as I've used it, I've put tiny little microchips in the knife, and this is kind of common with a real hard steel with a thin edge. And so I'm going to show you how I would deal with something like this, so you can too. Usually when you get a chip in your knife, and I did a little drawing for you, you'll get something like this. It'll usually be like a little V in your edge. The ones on my edge right now are real small, and in perspective you can barely see them. But I can feel them when I draw it through paper or run it over my fingernail. So what we want to do here is we want to get rid of this, and the way to get rid of this is to grind this edge up until this disappears. What you don't want to do is this, and I've seen people do this, and there's some logic behind it, right? You get your knife, you chip it like this, and then you're like, oh man, I gotta fix this. So you take your edge and you start grinding and grinding to try to get that chip out. And when you do that and you don't grind the entire edge, you end up with basically a hole. And you get the hole basically like this on the edge, but you also can grind away too much metal against the side of the blade and create a problem there too. Both of those are undesirable, so you just have to make sure you are conscious of that when you go to fix the knife. And so there are two things I'm going to suggest. One is, if this is a knife that you use at home, you're going to have a whole bunch of good edge here that you're going to have to remove to take out the chip. One thing that guys do all the time, and I like this method at home, I do this as well, is if I get a little microchip, I usually don't even pay attention to it. To fix it, I just sharpen the knife and totally ignore it. And each time I sharpen, you'll move up the edge just a little bit each time, and the chip will slowly go away. And in the meantime, you get to use the knife edge that you're not removing every time. So that's kind of a gradual way, and it usually takes several sharpening sessions to fix a small chip, and you get the benefit of a longer lasting knife. However, there are people that don't like that. They are annoyed by the chip and they want to get rid of it. And so you could conceivably just sharpen the knife and spend a lot more time on a rough grit stone. This is a Toma 140 plate that we use as our rough grit stone before we go up through the Shapton glass stones. So you can do that method. You can just sharpen the knife, and as you sharpen it, you're going to grind away the edge, and as you grind away the edge, you're going to move up the knife, and you're going to take out those little tiny chips. If they're big chips, it'll take you a lot longer. If they're really small, you probably can do it just like a normal sharpening job. So that's method number one. Method number two is a more aggressive way, and there's some benefits to doing it this way. You don't have to worry about making a hole in the knife or having a problem with the profile. We actually do this at work when we're fixing a chip for a customer, and occasionally I'll do it just for fun. So the other method is to actually take the knife, put it on the stone, and then grind away the edge. And the reason why this works really well is because you get a nice flat surface. You take the edge down real quickly, Again, you want to move along the whole blade so that you're not creating a problem as you're grinding it away. And so that's what we're going to do here. So I'm just going to add some water to my Atoma. And I recommend that you don't use a higher grit stone than maybe, maybe a 500 would be as high as I would go. And you can use a regular water stone on it doing this. So you just want to go like this. Oftentimes I will do this too if there are if there's a little bit of an imperfection in the edge where you want to clean that up, or if you want to create a bigger flat spot, you can do that stuff right now. Let's say I want to make the flat spot extend along the blade. I just concentrate on that a little bit. Not too much, but that will work. So anyways, remember, just if you're doing this, you want to do the whole edge, and you want to give equal treatment to it to keep the same profile. So all the way from the tip to the heel. And the motion you want to kind of do is it's almost like you're sliding it against the stone. You can take the edge and go straight across the stone like this, but you end up wearing away a particular spot in the plate, and that's not as good as just kind of dragging it across. So you want to use a slicing motion, and you want to kind of push it against the stone. Also, you probably figured this out by now, but if you're doing this and you're going along this whole stone, you're going to contact the middle more than you're going to contact the ends. So you want to make sure you pay a little more attention to the heel and the tip. Okay, so now I have no edge on this knife, obviously, and looking at it, I don't see the chips anymore, just from that little bit of work. But remember that I didn't have big ones to start. It'll take longer if you have a larger chip. And I'm just going to double check to make sure it's nice and there's no holes there or overgrinds, and it looks really pretty good. So what I would do now is I would just sharpen the knife. I would consider the chips fixed on this, and now I would go back and start forming an edge again on my Atoma here. And basically what I'm doing is, I created a big thick edge on the knife, and I'm going to have to thin it back out a little bit before I really work on getting a nice sharp edge on it again. So I'm going pretty low, like, I don't know, maybe the height of my pinky here. Now when I just felt the edge there, I didn't feel any burr. So it tells me that I haven't really formed an edge yet. I'm still kind of thinning it. Nothing. I'm just starting to get a burr here. So I'd probably work on this another couple minutes, and then I'd start working my way up the progression using a 500. Currently we're doing like 500 Shapton glass, and then a 2K, and then 6K, or the natural stone that we have here. But you know, it doesn't matter very much for chip repair what you do after you start putting the edge back on. So anyways, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, we have a active forum, and I invite you to come over and ask any questions you have, and hope this works for you. I'm Mark Richmond. Stay sharp.